Hey everybody, it's Colmedex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. And today is another vacation draft. We're going to be playing some Duskmourn House of Horror, adding to the giant list of variety draft formats we will be playing over these next couple weeks while I'm out. So without further ado, let's just get into our pack one, pick one of this super sweet format. We've got an Entity Tracker here as our rare. Very strong card and easily going to be the pick. It's got the Eerie mechanic, which triggers whenever an enchantment you control enters or whenever you fully unlock a room. These are these like split enchantments where you can cast one half of it and then unlock the other half later to use whichever side is more beneficial to you initially and get a lot of extra value that way. Pretty cool, unique mechanic to Duskmourn. And Eerie works really well with all those rooms and stuff. I think the blue-white Eerie deck is the best place for Entity Tracker, but there are enough enchantments and rooms and stuff in really any color pair that this ends up being a really powerful, flexible first pick. Some other options for that are great value, Graveyard Recursion with Under the Skin, and a great aggressive card with Arabella, although she's also the most restrictive card, being a two-color spell there. Pick two, really nice follow-up with the Bottomless Pool and Locker Room. Any of the best rooms in the format are really high picks when you have a very powerful Eerie trigger like that on Entity Tracker, and Bottomless Pool is one of the better rooms. It is a 1-mana unsummon bounce spell, so as long as one half of the room is like really good on rate, you're just getting extra value on the other room on the spell, so that's kind of how Bottomless Pool works. The Bottomless Pool itself is the part that you're really getting a good deal on, and then just in addition later in the game, maybe you draw an extra card or two off of the locker room as well. But very good card to take alongside the Entity Tracker. Pick number three, Glimmer Burst is a very solid draw spell, but this pack has a really strong option to actually dip off color here, which is the Optimistic Scavenger, one of the better blue-white uncommons. It is technically a mono-white uncommon, pretty strong in any white deck, but really, really strong in the blue-white Eerie deck with a bunch of enchantments and rooms, enchantment tokens. You can get a bunch of +1/+1 counters off this card, which makes it really efficient. For only 1 mana, you can often get 3, 4, even 5 power and toughness off this thing throughout the game. Pick number four, we've got the really nice value Unnerving Grasp, just a super good tempo play. 3 mana for a 2/2 off of the Manifest Dread ability as well as a bounce spell. Manifest Dread has a lot of different uses in the format. It's a very well designed set with a lot of cool things going on where because you've manifested a card, you're also putting other cards into your graveyard at the same time when you activate this ability. That's going to help you fuel your Delirium cards. It's also going to help fuel your Delirium cards by being a sorcery or instant instead of technically a creature spell. It'll just go into your graveyard immediately. Manifest Dread also works really well with the kind of Reanimator theme in the set, where there are some really beefy creatures that aren't super easy to cast, but now you can get them on the board early, and if they happen to stick around till you have a bunch of mana, then sweet, you get a sick flip up. Just a lot of cool stuff going on. So Unnerving Grasp, great spell here, and it gives me an opportunity to gush about the Manifest Dread mechanic. Pick number five, there's a Trapped in the Screen, very efficient removal spell out of white here, plays really well with the blue-white Eerie deck. Lionheart Glimmer's fine as well if you're a creature-heavy deck that wants to do a lot of attacking, especially if you're a token-heavy deck. There are a couple ways to do so in blue and white, but I think Trapped in the Screen is just such efficient removal that I'm taking that over the big beefy spell. Pick number six, solid 2-mana enchantment here. There have been some strong off-color cards, like Fear of Being Hunted's a pretty fun one. If you can pull off the Fear of Being Hunted plus Most Valuable Slayer combo, then it's really good. So that's a really fun wombo combo there, but Fear of Surveillance makes a lot of sense for the deck we're already going for, and we've already got such powerful cards, I don't see any reason to push a different direction. Now, Seized from Slumber for more decently efficient removal, Abandoned Campground for an on-color duel, and we're pretty locked in here. There are some slower matchups in this format, not really as often as you get in Ether Drift and Tarkir Dragonstorm. I think the set in general is much quicker than those, so I don't think you could really mill people out with the Scrabbling Skullcrab too often, but if this were best of 3, that would be a really nice sideboard option against the splashy green decks. They can often be Delirium-focused self-mill decks trying to get 4 different card types in their grave. Some pretty mediocre filler in the end there we'd like to cut. Don't Make a Sound is definitely better than Found Footage, but I'm not super impressed with it in blue-white, because blue-white, while it is sort of a tempo-y deck, often tempo-y control-y in a lot of formats, it's very aggressive in this set, so I don't love spells where I have to hold up mana at instant speed for them, when I could just be playing things that immediately impact the board and be pushing more damage in. Cards like Gremlin Tamer here and Optimistic Scavenger being kind of the 2 premium uncommons for this archetype kind of goes to show how aggressive it tends to play. Awkwardly, not much here for a pick 2. There's really not a lot of good cards in here for anybody, but we'll take the Fear of Surveillance there. Pick number 3, another Trapped in the Screen, is great. Should be a pretty simple draft for us. I mean, we got the best uncommons for this archetype. We got a great rare for it with the Entity Tracker. We were already on to a great start in terms of having an aggressive mana curve and solid amounts of removal and bounce to get things out of the way. Should be a nice, easy draft. And here's Unable to Scream. Not the best removal spell when you're a really aggressive deck, because your opponent does still get to block with their creature, but shutting off all of its abilities, turning it into a 0/2, really just gives them 1 chump block with it. The vast majority of the time, this plays a lot better than most of the turn a creature to a 1/1 kind of spells do. Glimmerlight is really nice in this archetype. Gets an eerie trigger, plus it's just another threat of its own. Moving the equipment around is nice in any creature-heavy aggressive deck, making sure that your attacks line up well into your opponent's blocks. I'll take a millionth copy of Trapped in the Screen, but Tunnel Surveyor is no slouch in blue-white. Pick number 7, Flood Pits Drowner is a really nice tempo play. Duskmourn's Domination is really fun, but the fact that it shuts off the creature's abilities really saps a lot of the power out of this mind control style effect. It's still okay late game removal, and if you're lucky and you hit a matchup when you're playing against like a big green deck and you get to steal a 6/5 or something, you still get some good value off of this. The problem is you will get into matchups against decks like blue-white and red-white where you're gonna steal their like 3/3 with a good ability and be pretty unhappy with the amount of mana you spent to do that. So I'll just take the Flood Pits Drowner here. Great ETB tempo, get a tap and a stun, plus it flashes itself in. You can use it as a full-on removal spell if you need to, shuffle their threat back in the deck, but when you're this aggressively curved, you also get to get just a lot of good damage in with this card, even if you're just stunning something you don't really care about. You're just stopping some blocks for a couple turns. Do not love any of these cards. I'm not a big fan of Fear of Imposters, especially in a more aggressive deck like this. You end up countering their spell and then giving them something still really, really viable. A 2/2 body can trade off in any of our little aggressive creatures, so it's not the loveliest. Stocked Researcher is actually not unplayable in this deck. I probably should have been taking them a little higher. But I think I have enough 2-drops, we would almost certainly end up cutting them in the end anyway. Alright, pack 3, pick 1 now. Ethereal Armor is a little bit narrow, a little bit win more, but when it pops off, it pops off. If you have this in an early curve out and your opponent doesn't have removal, sometimes you just get the kill really quick. There's not too much competing with it. It's really just the Glimmer Burst as the best spell here in competition with the Ethereal Armor. I have not played a lot of these in my time, again, because of how narrow it is and how bad it is when you do cast it and your opponent responds with cheap removal, like a Scorched Dragonfire, but I've died to it once or twice. I'd like to experience that myself. Probably a mispick here, probably the wrong card to take, just take the more consistent Glimmer Burst card, but I'll see if I can't high roll with an Ethereal Armor and get a quick kill or 2 in with it. Make up for its inconsistencies. Pick number 2 now. I genuinely like Fear of Surveillance a little bit better than Unwilling Vessel on average, which is wild because this is like an eerie trigger uncommon. But the way that our mana curve is, I'll still just take the Unwilling Vessel here. I just want to mention there's enough cheap removal in the set that Unwilling Vessel often plays as like just a 3 mana 3/2 Vigilance. You cannot guarantee it's going to be around until you get that Eerie trigger particularly well, and the 3/2 body's really bad if you're on the defensive. You can't like play it and trade it off and get any value. You end up trading down into like a 2/2 if you don't wait to get your Eerie triggers. So I've been generally unimpressed by Unwilling Vessel, whereas Fear of Surveillance has a lot of hidden power to it. Being an enchantment is valuable. Surveilling every time it attacks makes sure that you're drawing well. It also helps fuel Delirium because you're putting cards in your grave. That Vigilance is great to be able to hold up blocks while you're attacking. This card I think is deceptively good. It's a lot better than it looks, and this card is a lot worse than it looks. But they do meet somewhere in the middle where maybe I'm a little bit too high on Fear of Surveillance and a little bit too low on Unwilling Vessel. I just want to point out that naturally the first time I saw this set, I was like, that card's an absolute banger, and that card's super filler, and now I kind of feel slightly the opposite. But I'm still taking Unwilling Vessel here for mana curve purposes. Pick 3, we got the other blue-white uncommon. Technically, Gremlin Tamer's the only blue-white uncommon in this deck, but I sort of treat Optimistic Scavenger that way as well. So it's kind of like we got all 3 of the blue-white signpost uncommons. This one's a little weaker in this deck. We don't have very many high mana value enchantments that I care too much about, but it is still letting us double spell with like a Trapped in the Screen and a 2-drop creature more easily, so it's still very valuable, and just a 2 mana 2/3 for the stat line is good. It's got the very relevant card type. It is an enchantment itself. Here's another Glimmer Burst for us. Tunnel Surveyor's great. Definitely pretty high on 2-drops. I could use another 3. It's perfectly fine with me. Pick number 6. I do not mind Jump Scare in aggressive decks. Sometimes just getting that flying swing can get those last few points of damage in on your opponent after they stabilize with a bunch of ground creatures. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll send my 3-power creature in the sky, get that final 5 damage in. So that's pretty nice. Plus it has the same usage as any other combat trick early in the game, where you make sure you keep your creatures on board when your opponent tries to trade off on blocks. Here's another Don't Make a Sound. I'm probably not playing. Another Tunnel Surveyor. I don't know if I'll play both copies. We'll see as we get to the end. We certainly have more than enough playables at this point, so we get some options in the deck building. Vanish from Sight. Another one that normally I wouldn't be too unhappy to run in this kind of deck, but I do have triple Trapped in the Screen and an Unable to Scream taking up my removal slots. I think this is inferior to those, so likely a cut. Piranha Fly, definitely a cut. It's the weakest non-synergy 2-drop we have. The only 2-drop we have in the whole deck that doesn't synergize with our Eerie and just enchantment theming is Flood Pits Drowner, and that's like a really good card. Don't think it's worth running a very filler 2-drop that doesn't synergize at that point. Alright, no more playables. Well, okay, Don't Make a Sound is playable in the right deck. It could be playable in here, but I think we have enough other better cards to leave it in the side regardless. Let's take a peek at our creature versus non-creature spell count. One thing I do want to note is that Unnerving Grasp definitely counts as a creature. As a 2/2 body. Glimmerlight, because it also can equip and become a 2/2 body, I would also count that towards our creature count. I would not quite count the Glimmer Bursts towards the creature count. 4 mana, 1/1 draw 2. It's much more about the card draw than the creature itself. The creature is still nice and what makes the card certainly playable, but I don't think I'd take that into account in terms of my 15 to 17 creatures towards an aggressive deck. So we're on 12 right now. So hopefully at least 3 more. So 12 plus Unnerving Grasp plus Glimmerlight is 14 creatures. If I count 2 copies of Glimmer Burst as 1 creature, if I count these as both half a creature, then that's my 15. I really don't want to play a Daggermaw Megalodon, especially in this kind of archetype. We're curving out so aggressively that it's not the kind of card I can just swap a land out for this willy-nilly, because if we're ever spending the 2 mana to Island Cycle this in the early game instead of expanding our board state and getting more damage in, we're losing a whole lot of tempo, and that's a big way this deck can win, is just getting in underneath opponents with bigger late-game bombs. So running the Megalodon over the 16th land or something like that and ever expecting to Island Cycle it is just pretty bad most of the time. We never want to Island Cycle that thing on curve. And then, like, At that point, we're just running a 6 mana 5/7 Vigilance, and that doesn't make sense in a deck this aggressive. We don't want the 6 mana 5 power creature either, so not really going to run the Megalodon here. I'm going to go for 14.5 creatures with the 14 including a Glimmerlight and a Non-Unnerving Grasp, and then double Glimmerburst sort of as an additional creature there. So now we're going to cut our least synergistic, weakest non-creature spells, because we're not cutting any creatures with those kind of counts here. So I don't think I'm really going to cut any enchantments. So those all stay in for that reason. Our Unnerving Grasp is just very powerful for its mana cost, so that stays in for that reason. And then Seize from Slumber, I guess, can get added to the stack of non-synergy cards we could cut. Everything else here is either an enchantment synergy card or an Unnerving Grasp. So these are our potential cuts. We've got 5 cards we can cut out of here. Again, I really want to just commit power to the board every single turn until we are out of creatures to cast, at which case then I could hold up an instant, because if I have a Glimmerburst in hand, then I'm holding up the mana to do that at instant speed anyway, so it is possible I could hold up a Don't Make a Sound on a turn where I'm holding up a Glimmerburst. That does raise the power of this card a little bit, but still generally weak in the sorted deck, because we're never holding that up until we're done putting everything out on the board. I don't really think I need Jump Scare. I have 2 bounce spells. I've got an equipment for pluses. I've got an enchantment for pluses. I don't think I really need the combat tricky sort of thing. I definitely don't need the found footage card draw. Just non-synergistic, expensive card draw instead of synergistic card draw with a good rates. So that leaves 3 counter spells, 2 removal spells. We have to cut 3 more cards. We can absolutely cut 1 land here. I am going to do that. 16 blue, 11 white right now. The counts could change after we swap things around, but for now it looks like we're cutting a white source. Then 2 cuts to go. So I guess I'll be running at least 1 copy of Don't Make a Sound no matter what. That does make me kind of want to just cut 2 copies of it. And then if that 1 copy ends up playing particularly well, maybe we will swap things around between games. I mean, you all know me. When I'm playing best of 1, I don't really do that. But I do like to mention that that is an option you can do on Arena. We'll try out the 1 copy of Don't Make a Sound. So, like, the one scenario where it will actually be good is against slower splasher green decks and stuff, where we put all this pressure on their early game. They're trying to play their early blockers to trade off, and they're setting up their mana, and then whenever they are finally like done dealing with that stuff and they're ready to stabilize and play their big bomb, if we have it up against the big bomb, that's pretty sick. But I don't think that's a super common occurrence in this set. A lot of the best rares are pretty efficient. Like Swarm Weaver's like a 4 mana card. Like, I'm not going to have this up when they're casting a 4-drop particularly often with this many cards to play to the board. But we'll see. We'll see. I do have 2 bounce spells, so it's possible like bounce something and counter it. But that's only if they don't have enough mana to pay the 2. There's a lot of things I don't love about Don't Make a Sound, but we're trying it here. I'm not going to play 15 lands. So yeah, deck looks really sweet. It's got the best uncommons for the strategy. It's got a great rare for this strategy with Entity Tracker. It's got a lot of removal and bounce to keep that board clear and get the damage in quick. So we'll see how it all plays out for us as we hop into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. We're an aggro deck. We can't keep a hand of 3 removal spells and no creatures, which is disappointing because the mana's great and the spells are powerful. It's just they're entirely interaction. This hand is much, well, it's not much better because lacking blue is awkward. But we can ditch 1 of the blue spells, only keeping the 4 mana blue play, so I don't need to draw into a blue source until 4 mana for the opening hand at least. Unfortunately, our first top deck was immediately another blue spell. Our opponent has the immediate removal. No, they have a friendly Teddy. There's the blue source. Okay, that's going to be really nice here. We are somewhat likely to get 2 for 1 here, but green and red are damage-based removal colors, so it's going to be kind of hard for them to kill a 5/5 this early. Ditching the Seize from Slumber, looking for land 4 for Glimmerburst. I already have my one early removal spell, and if they don't deal with the Fear of Surveillance quickly, the one early removal spell could be enough to win the game, honestly, with the amount of damage that outputs. They do go ahead and trade with the Friendly Teddy to draw a card here. Not trade, but chump with the Friendly Teddy. Probably trying to draw into lands or removal here. They do have a Scorching Dragonfire in the opener, but this is what I was saying about green and red being kind of damage-based removal colors. Tunnel Surveyor was a great draw. If we didn't draw into that, we'd just hold up Don't Make a Sound, counter whatever they draw into. I honestly don't mind drawing a Trapped in the Screen here. If they don't play to the board next turn, we hold up Don't Make a Sound, and if they do, we cast one of these two. So there's a Piggy Bank and a House Cartographer. Let's get rid of the Piggy Bank to keep them off the treasure token here. That is the better chumper for them. The Cartographer can draw them cards, but at the cost of tapping the Cartographer and choosing not to block with it, which would be very risky for them. So yeah, they're just going to trade off and not get the treasure token since we exiled the treasure token maker. Kept the land on top this time. I've already got another Trapped in the Screen for their next threat, and we've got the Glimmerburst mana off that now. 6/6 face down is not a big enough threat to need to trap it in the screen here, so I'm going to send in holding up my counter spell. Unwilling Vessel, not a horrible draw, especially if I do cast the card draw into it. Any creatures here are decent. So we've gotten them down to 3, and they chose not to flip up the face down, which could mean, or they chose not to chump with the face down, which could mean that it is worth killing with a Trapped in the Screen. My issue with that is I'm not holding up Don't Make a Sound if I do try to kill that here. It's pretty free to hold up Don't Make a Sound right now because we have the Glimmerburst too. Okay, so they're going to end step, we'll Glimmerburst. Is unable to scream. I don't have any instants that can deal with this if it flips up at instant speed into something important, but I don't think there's a lot they could flip it into that could kill the Fear of Surveillance, so I think I'd cast the other copy to make the Fear even bigger. No, it's already lethal. We just attack first, holding up all of our mana. But then we cast the second copy, holding up our counterspell. Okay, they're just going to chump with it now. Fair enough. Oh, it was literally just a mountain. Well, misread that. They were just saving the chump for the maximum amount of damage, since the Fear of Surveillance is just getting bigger and bigger. Okay. I can force them to spend an extra 2 here to make it less likely they have the mana up for anything that lets them sacrifice this. I don't remember what the sacrifice effects are in this set. Hopefully there's none they can do for only 1 mana, but we'll find out soon enough, I suppose. I guess alternatively I could just wait and see what they cast and try to counter whatever they cast to sack it, but if it's cheap enough, it would resolve either way. Right, if they could spend the 2 mana and then cast it, they could also cast it first and then spend the 2 mana if I tried to counter that spell specifically. So works out fine for us. They scoop them up and we're 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are on the play for game 2. Nice curve out here. Fear of Surveillance into Unwilling Vessel, hoping to get the Tunnel Surveyor trigger for Eerie before we attack with it. Or block with it for that matter. Playing against the black deck, it's some Golgari stuff. Tends to be one of the slower decks with a lot of really good late game delirium value. There's an immediate Winter's Intervention to clear out our Fear of Surveillance. Very nice start. Here's Unwilling Vessel. Please no super cheap removal to clear it out before we get Eerie triggers. Let me get a spirit when this dies, please. Nope. All removal all day. Double Winter's Intervention. That's pretty good against our deck. Tragedy. But Glimmerburst is nice for this kind of matchup. Spine, Seeker, Centipede, great 2-for-1 card. Make sure they keep hitting their land drops and trade into something on the board. Once they find their Delirium as well, it's kind of a threat. 3/3 Vigilance At the very least, it trades very well at that point. Hello, Entity Tracker. I really don't want to bottomless pool a Centipede. Doesn't feel crazy to just drop a locker room here and attack with the Glimmer. Now they have to trade the Centipede into a 1/1 or let me draw a card. Either way, our Glimmer token gives us a full card worth of value. It's either killing essentially a full creature or letting us draw a full card. With the way that rooms work with Eerie triggers, I still get the bottomless pool with Entity Tracker later and immediately draw the card. Unlocking the room counts the same as casting the bottomless pool. There's Moldering Gym. They're just going to ramp up this turn. Cool. So for 6 mana here, I can just play the Tracker and the Surveyor here. Hope they have no removal left for Tracker. But even if they do, we guarantee we've drawn at least 1 card off of it. Cool. And the Seized from Slumber to try to keep the board clear so that we can hit them with something else and draw cards off Locker Room instead. Shroud Stomper's disgusting. We are definitely going to seize that from Slumber to stop them from getting its attack triggers and enter triggers and all that, drawing them a million cards. Speaking of drawing a million cards, let's draw one off Fear of Surveillance and draw one off of Locker Room as well. Cool. They're still at 21. They've gained so much life. They've gained 2 off of Shroud Stomper and 4 off of 2 different copies of Winter's Intervention. They could unlock the Weight Room if they have nothing good in their hand. Unlocking Weight Room gives them a 5/5. Interesting. Alright, well, we'll probably bottomless pool that. Bouncing a face-down manifested card is usually a pretty big risk, right? Because if it's a good spell, like a good non-creature spell, then it wasn't going to do anything if you didn't bounce it. The problem here is it's a 5/5, so it's 100% doing something if I don't bounce it. Innocuous Rat. Okay, so it was doing a lot more with us not bouncing it than doing so that feels pretty good. By the way, if you're just listening, they did Final Vengeance our Entity Tracker here, so we're not drawing cards off that anymore, but we still have Fear of Surveillance surveilling every turn, and Locker Room drawing us an additional card every turn, so still a lot of good value here. We've got the full board state, while our opponent has the empty board here, but we know they have at least an Innocuous Rat to get some blocks in later, and a bunch of other cards. They've only been playing like 1 or 2 cards a turn, so they've got a full grip over there. Rite of the Moth. The reanimation spell on the Shroud Stomper here to draw another card, drain us for another 2 life. Really excellent value off of the Shroud Stomper this game, even through our removal spell. Sadly, the removal we had was Seized from Slumber, which destroyed it. If we had any of our Trapped in the Screens instead of Seized from Slumber, they couldn't have gotten any of that Rite of the Moth value, and that would have been really, really helpful here, but cannot draw perfectly. We've got the Trapped in the Screen now for the Shroud Stomper, but it already is technically already has a finality counter on it. I still have to get out of the way. Okay, we're definitely attacking all. Ooh, I hate that is the way that works with finality counters. That's a little awkward. So the finality counters make it so, I probably should have put this on a Glimmer. Finality counters make it so if the creature would die, it gets exiled instead. If it goes anywhere, like if it gets bounced back to a hand or something, it gets exiled instead. But if I exile it with Trapped in the Screen, it just stays exiled under the Trapped in the Screen. So in a way, if they have enchantment removal, I kind of saved their Shroud Stomper from the Eerie counter. If they kill Trapped in the Screen, they get the Shroud Stomper back. That kind of gets around the Eerie counter thing in a bad way for us. Yeah, I should have Glimmerlighted a 1/1 token there to get more damage, and they were definitely going to block Fear of Surveillance. So missed out on 1 point of damage that turn. Oh, goody. The best rare in the entire set, Valgavoth's Onslaught, has resolved for our opponent, manifesting 4 times and putting 4 +1/+1 counters on those creatures. This is the highest win rate, least the beatable rare in the whole set. It's gonna beat us here. The board state has gone from us with 4 creatures and then them having only 1 to now them having 4 6/6s that block our entire board and just kill us. 1 card has invalidated the whole game, but that's part of Magic. They do gotta print some really strong rares and mythics for the constructed formats. Just a big bummer when your game gets demolished by one of those in draft. So opponent gets the victory here, and that is going to be a 1-1 heading into game number 3. Here we are for game number 3. Another game to try to cheese out an Ethereal Armor victory. Hopefully we're against green-red again, the colors that are the worst at interacting with a very high toughness creature. Sadly, we are against blue, so they could just like unable to scream our Ethereal Armored creature. Although, I actually don't know how the layers work with auras. I would assume it still gets some amount of a buff. I guess we'll find out if they have their own Unable to Scream. If they have a bounce spell here, that's also rough, but I have literally no other spell to play this turn, so we may as well see if we can't get damage in here. They can have to counter unless I pay 2. They have an instant here. Okay, counter a creature enchantment. Fair enough. The world may never know. We draw into a Glimmerlight. I don't mind it, but I do want to hit 5 mana eventually for Locker Room here again. That said, because my whole hand is removal spells and bounce spells, I'm going to choose to draw into the Glimmerlight here so I know I can commit something more to the board next turn, because yeah, they play a swamp and pass. They're not doing anything on board, so I kind of need to spend my mana impacting the board state in some way, and I can't do that at all if my hand is entirely removal like it was. Jesus, okay. I don't mind drawing a Twist Reality out for a Glimmerlight. Now they don't have a Twist Reality for this Entity Tracker coming up. So our opponent's on blue-black, just full control there. We have seen exclusively counterspells so far. Which is kind of annoying, but if Fear of Surveillance sticks around, I mean, it gets there in 8 more turns. They're down to 16. There's Valgavoth's Faithful. Nothing to reanimate yet, but there are some really big creatures in this format. Especially, of course, Valgavoth himself. Just like a giant 9-mana demon that's pretty impossible to beat once it hits the board. The one thing that really... I'm gonna mill this. I still feel that 5th land is really valuable. The one thing that really keeps Valgavoth himself there is that he has 9 mana, which is kind of insane. There's an argument to cast Entity Tracker right now, but I think I play around sorcery speed removal over a 3rd counterspell. Because unless they have like 5+ counterspells in their deck, it's really unlikely to have 3 in the opener here. Much more likely they have some kind of removal now left over. I guess we find out they only have double blue up. So the only counter they can have that'll work is Get Out or the counter unless I pay 2. But again, we've seen 2 of their counterspells already. And they had the 2 mana up if I tried to cast this during my turn as well. It's just I could have tried to sneak it out when they cycled. They had double Get Out. Right. Pretty crazy odds on that. two of the same uncommon there in the opener. But there are other spells that could have been that would have been bad for us, so it is what it is. We still have Fear of Surveillance giving us a plan here. Keep that 5th land for this locker room. On board, we get to start drawing cards next turn. Depends on what they cast here. So they can use Faithful to get a Megalodon back here, but I can just kill it. Sure. So again, not really worried about the Megalodon. I do think I need to Trapped in the Screen it over Unable to Scream to get maximum damage here. Because if I Unable to Scream it, because it has a Glimmerlight on it, it'll be a 1/3. They get to kill one of my 1/1s for free. I'm slightly tempted to mill Tunnel Surveyor, because a 6th land is valuable too. Being able to cast Unable to Scream and unlock the locker room would be legit. The blue-black deck has a way to blow up an enchantment. Alright. Big bummer there, but they're down to 5 and we've got a wide board and I still have that Unable to Scream. We are exclusively pushing damage right now. I am not about the card draw life when my opponent's down to 5 and our board state is this wide. Unnerving Grasp is a great draw. Our deck has so many ways to get blockers out of the way. Yeah, they just concede on the spot. They're not even playing it out there. We are 2-1 heading into game 4. Here we are for game 4. Inquisitive Glimmer, turn 2. We draw into any enchantments. They're going to be really cheap. Get some double spelling going. Let's go. So I can already double spell Fear of Surveillance plus Floodpits Drowner next turn. 1 red mana instant here. So they have Turn Inside Out. That is +3/+0 to a creature. And when it dies, you get to manifest Dread. So we will play around that here. Which, since they're tapped out, we don't have to worry about. We'll see if my P-Brain can keep Turn Inside Out in mind this whole game. I'll probably forget about it and they'll cast it and it'll be really good. Take 2. I'll stun this in the end step if they don't play a better blocker, but it's not that good of a blocker here, so probably stunning something else. Grand Entryway. Get a 1/1 Glimmer. The 1/1 Glimmer is a pretty good blocker with Turn Inside Out, so I'm going to go ahead and stun Fear of Surveillance and then just kill the Glimmer with Unnerving Grasp. That'll completely shut off the Turn Inside Out in their hand. It kind of doesn't matter what I pick, because even if I flip this up, it doesn't do anything. Alright, I'll pick Trapped in the Screen, so if they randomly play a blue source and bounce my card, I get some value there. I guess there's a chance that I can bounce my own card later. I think Bottomless Pool can target your own creature to return it to your hand. Unnerving Grasp definitely can. Midnight Mayhem, gain 3 life here or just hold up the blockers. They don't have Turn Inside Out mana up here, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't hold up the blockers, but they decided to do so. They could triple block Inquisitive Glimmer, I don't really care. They could double block Fear of Surveillance, I don't really care. The single block on Floodpits Drowner is the most awkward thing for us. Can Glimmerlight to try to ruin that, but I would kind of rather be mana efficient with Glimmer Burst. No, I should probably Glimmerlight to get the best trades I can get off this board here. Fear of Surveillance. Been consistently putting in work these games, digging out of any flood. Sure. They're down to 7. I don't think I'm moving this. Well, they have a turn inside out in hand, so if they attack with Fear, I don't want to block because of the turn inside out potential. I think I am actually moving this then to the 1/1 token, and then I have the best possible block against turn inside out. Like, I don't really care if they cast it when I block Fear of Surveillance. Yeah, so they just pass turn. Okay. So they're holding it up to use it on blocks. We just attack with the 2/2s then. I doubt I'm attacking with Fear of Surveillance. We'll see though. Maybe Glimmer Burst will change my mind. Not really. Well, okay. Vanish from sight in response to a turn inside out is kind of real. But turn inside out doesn't really matter against a 2/2, realistically. Right? All they're doing is just keeping a 2/2 out. Yeah, no, I should just do this. They just get to have their... They just trade 3 creatures off and leave 1 2/2 behind. It's perfectly fine. And we get the 1/1 out of the way so that Flood Pit's Drowner trades up into a 2/2 instead. Yep, there's the turn inside out. Cool, so they're down to 5. They're still under a good amount of pressure here. Okay, they just Rotunda to make their creatures 3/3s. Land for turn. Poke for 3. No blocks. They surveil to the top. You do hate to see that. If I Glimmer Burst into any land, I get to get the 1/1 plus a 2/2 this turn. Set up for multi-spelling on future turns. Oh yeah, I have a Gremlin Tamer to play. I'm going to miss out on a single 1/1 to guarantee that they don't just kill this with some removal the turn I play it. Because I wouldn't be getting any 1/1s. Yeah, love how that played out. I wouldn't be getting any 1/1s off the Gremlin Tamer until next turn anyway, so we play that, because they're already in a position they have to throw removal at something. So by playing in that way, we had them throw the removal at our 2/2 Vigilance instead of our very important Army in a Can coming up. That said, their Painter's Studio immediately drew into more removal with the Scorching Dragonfire, which, if they don't cast at sorcery speed, forces me to hold off on Gremlin Tamer for another turn, because then they just kill that in our end step. Yeah, this Scorching Dragonfire off the top with Painter's Studio has played really well for them, because I also can't double block Fear of Surveillance with a 2/2 and a 1/1, or they just Scorching Dragonfire the 2/2 and kill them both. Yeah, my blocks are pretty bad there. Trapped in the Screen is not bad, though. Trapped in the Screen, the face down. Glimmerlight on the Flood Pit's Drowner, and I kind of force their hand with the Scorching Dragonfire here. Because they're not going to want to trade Fear of Surveillance into Flood Pit's Drowner. Yep. And now that that's out of the way, I don't think it'd be crazy to play Gremlin Tamer here. Because now they need yet another removal spell after those two. Disturbing Mirth, sack the room, draw 2. Digging for removal here. This looks like they are Boros Splash Black. Here's the Surveil from Fear of Surveillance. Mills a land. No blocks. Colt Healer, a potential lifelinker, is a big deal, and our top deck is just a land. So I have 7 mana now. So I can Vanish from Sight, Fear of Surveillance, and equip a Glimmerlight to somebody. So Fear of Surveillance, get my Gremlin. That is very immediately important. With no other enchantments in the hand, I think I'm sending in the Gremlin Tamer to get a 3/3 out of here. Try to get this to be a board where I have 4 more creatures than them and guarantee lethal. Yeah, I send in the Gremlin Tamer, and if it's going to resolve as just trading into a 3/3, I'll just take the trade into a 3/3. It's only if they use some kind of trick that I'm not okay with it. And then I use Vanish from Sight. Even a turn Inside Out is enough for me to counter that, to keep them from getting another creature on the board from it. Because that will have the board state where I need it to be, where Colt Healer goes on the Tamer and they take the rest of the damage and die. Unless they get the lifelink trigger here, then it's not quite lethal, but it's still close. Optimistic Scavenger's the draw. They can jump there and take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that Colt Healer lifelink is putting in work, isn't it? We're still in the winning position for sure. I think we're supposed to attack with all but 1, probably. No, it's probably send all, and we just throw Optimistic Scavenger under the bus on blocks. That's fine. Yeah, throw our late game value plays under the bus for immediate damage here. It's the next 1 or 2 turns that matter, not the next 10. So we move the Glimmerlight so that I get to have Fear of Surveillance up as a blocker. And if they have removal for it, I still get to chump with Scavenger. But if they don't have removal, I can just trade there. And there's the concession from our opponent. All right, that is 3-1 now. Our only loss being that loss to Valgavoth's Onslaught here. So very nice draft so far, heading into round number 5. Here we are for game 5. For a mono-colored hand, takes like some really good cards or some really good synergy to get me interested in keeping it. There's only 2 castable spells here off of just the blue, but the 2 spells we do have play really well together. Floodpit's Drowner and Don't Make a Sound, and if we hit the white source, Fear of Surveillance and Trapped in the Screen are some of the best cards in the deck. And we immediately hit the white source because I'm a genius who is unstoppable. Playing against a black-white deck here. And that's the Reanimator archetype. I'll keep a Vanish from Sight, because I have the counterspell. Having another instant to hold up alongside it is very nice. Patch Plaything. Alright, well I might just counter that anyway. You know what? No, I want to play to the board here. We'll drown it. Deal with it later. Okay, I do want the 5th land, so mill towards that. Milling Tunnel Surveyor. Towards the locker room. If they play something with no good enters effect, I'm going to vanish it. If they cast something with a really good enter effect or some kind of really good non-creature spell, I'll counter it. Sack the Plaything to kill... Oh, you got it. She sacked a whole creature to kill a Fear of Surveillance. That was a whole 2-for-1 for us. I'll counter your card draw. Stay even farther ahead in card advantage, especially because I'm unlocking the locker room. So I'm drawing a card every turn. Right of the Moth the Plaything, so that explains the sacking the Plaything, obviously, but if it goes anywhere, if this would go to a graveyard from the battlefield, exile it instead. Okay, so if I put it to their hand, it genuinely goes into their hand. Well, still get an Eerie trigger for that. Fine with them recasting it. Ooh, Unwilling Vessel's a good draw. Yeah, if they recast it, that's going to soak up most of their mana. I trap it in the screen and they die that turn. Well, they take 8. 1 damage from lethaling them through the recast. Draw another card. It's another trapped in the screen. Should be very, very little that can save them now. Indeed, there is nothing that can save them now. That is 4-1 for a positive record with this draft, no matter where things go from here. Here we are on the draw now for game number 6. We only have one threat here, and it's just a Glimmer Light. So certainly not the most aggressive start, but I already wasn't expecting to be too aggressive on the draw, so I'm fine with the hand. It's got both of our colors and collection of solid spells, and there's the Fear of Surveillance. One of the best 2-drops in this deck. I don't mind it at all. I say the Fear of Surveillance, but really there's one of the 3 Fears of Surveillance. Opponent's got a great start for the Golgari deck, though. Valgabos Faithful and now Spineseeker Centipede picking up a Mountain, so the Jund deck here. Splashing around for strong rares and bombs and whatnot, I imagine. Let's get this Glimmer Light onto our Fear of Surveillance, force the double block to trade, which will not be a great deal for our opponent. A really good 4 and 5 mana play. I think I'm going to keep Fear of Surveillance anyway, though, because like I'll probably play Glimmerburst soon enough. And that'll get to the locker room mana. Okay, no 4 mana bomb rare, thankfully, which means now I get to hold up. Don't make a sound pretty easily. Fear of Surveillance into Defiant Survivor is a fine trade. We're guaranteeing they're not going to get any of their survival triggers. Alright, I'm actively choosing never to hit the 5th man at this point, but there's just really good cards showing up. I don't think it'd be crazy to play Fear of Surveillance here, but I do want a Glimmer Burst if they don't cast anything really powerful. So to have that option open does feel valuable. Yeah, Spineseeker Centipede's fine. Until they hit Delirium. If they hit Delirium, it becomes an issue. Insidious Fungus is annoying for us, because it can blow up whatever our best enchantment is later. I don't think it's good enough to blow the counterspell on. I guess they're getting to a point where they're going to have enough mana to cast anything through the counterspell anyway. So I guess I will counter that, actually. So, do we want a Glimmer Burst, or do we want a Fear of Surveillance plus Drowner? Honestly, I don't think there's a ton of value in Drownering right now. I'm going to be on Glimmer Burst. I think basically the only card in the set that they're not close to casting through our counterspell is Valgamoth's Onslaught. So unless we run up against that twice today, which is really unlikely, I think it's fair to just counter the fungus. There aren't a ton of like 6 mana bombs in this set. Weirdly, it's a lot of like really efficient ones, like 4 and 5 mana. Skip through the turn to play around the counterspell. Pretty happy to see that from our opponent. We've got an Entity Tracker as an option now. Just keep pretending I have a counterspell here, and then just play an Entity Tracker in their end step, making sure they can't kill it at sorcery speed, and then just slam a bunch of enchantments the turn after that. Doesn't seem crazy to me. Osseous Dick Twister. Keep your pants away from that thing. 2 cards left in hand. They go to the end step, and now I'll play Entity Tracker. If they have instant speed removal like Scorching Dragonfire, we're sad, but they could have done that during our turn if I tried to do this at sorcery speed too. So now let's just draw as many cards as possible. So I think Inquisitive Glimmer to make things cheaper is good, but I need to Bottomless Pool and hit a white source. I need to hit another white source ideally. Obviously bouncing like a 2-drop is not the most ideal thing ever, but when it draws us an extra card, it's so worth it. Sorry, Unwilling Vessel. I am unwilling to let you get any spirit counters, because I just want to maximize Entity Tracker value right now. Lock that in. Alright, that turn was exceptionally bad for our opponent. Exceptionally good for us, but now we're tapped out. So anything they were holding on to, scared of a counterspell, does get free roam to resolve here, but I've got multiple removal spells to deal with anything. As long as it's not like a Valgamoth's Onslaught where it's like 4 creatures off 1 spell. Rickety Gazebo. Mill 4, pick up 2 of the milled permanents. Pick up a 7-drop that's very strong. It'll make us sacrifice an enchantment and a creature when it enters, which is real sketchy. Luckily, those Glimmer tokens are putting in a lot of work for us. We get to just sack the 2 Glimmers to the Vile Mutilator. Flesh Burrower. Beastie Beatdown, sure. So Tracker's done now. Okay, I'll trade a 2-3 into a 3-3 all day long. Profitable trades were had. Now... I'm gonna drown the Centipede. Use one of the other removal spells on the Mutilator and the Stick Twister. Banish from Sight's not like crazy good right now, but I think it's good enough to keep. All right, we have 3 removal spells in hand. It wouldn't be crazy for our opponent to trade into the Glimmer token, so I can't just sack 2 tokens against Vile Mutilator, but we'll see. I do need to really make sure not to destroy the Mutilator. I need to exile it to stop them from reanimating it with the Faithful. Nothing else in their grave is that big of a deal for them to reanimate with Faithful. I suppose the Faithful can reanimate the Fungus later. That's definitely an issue. Oh, it makes us sack non-tokens? Okay, that's so much worse than I thought. Been too long. Forgot the text. Oh, double Faithful. That's really irritating. I felt like a genius now that I read their graveyard and was like, okay, no, we actually do need to shut off Valgavoth's Faithful so that we know they can't get back Insidious Fungus, but now I can't. Like, now I'm just gonna unable to scream the Mutilator, they're gonna get back the Fungus and destroy the unable to scream. I'm definitely casting Unable to Scream over Seized from Slumber or Trapped in the Screen, though. Because if I cast Seized from Slumber, they just reanimate the Mutilator and make me sack more stuff. If I cast Trapped in the Screen, they just blow up the Trapped in the Screen, which brings back the Mutilator and makes me sack more stuff. So I really need to use that specific removal spell, or things go really wrong. Crazy to banish somebody from sight here. I think it's wrong to vanish from sight here, but it's not like delusional. I think we wait for the vanish. Right, they're just gonna chump for the Faithful. Yeah, I shouldn't attack here. Oh, I don't know why I didn't put that together. That was really bad. Well, it's better to make them recast it. Ah, but now I used Unable to Scream for nothing. I could vanish my Fear of Surveillance. It's embarrassing, but it might be our best line at this point. Yeah, this really is kind of embarrassing. I guess we just don't have attacks yet. I mean, we do put them to 6 for doing that, so that is considerably low on life. So we got something for that. It was definitely not the right play, but it didn't go as terribly as I thought at the time. Here comes the fungi. Stick twisty. Just gain them life when it damages us. Wow, that's ridiculously good. That it gains them the life. Jesus. Okay, if it didn't gain life, then the damage wouldn't be a problem at all, but... the fact that it does is an issue. Oh, this double Faithful is so absurd. I genuinely don't know how we get anything done here. Because I can't kill the Mutilator, or they just bring it back, or they bring back the Fungus to kill my removal. It's like I see exactly what all the problems are here and the crazy stuff they can do here. And I just don't have any way to play around it. I mean, I guess the Faithfuls are sorcery speed. Maybe let's just kill both Faithfuls right there, right then and there. No, yeah, I didn't notice that they were sorcery speed. No, not another big misplay. I didn't notice that they were sorcery speed. I'm definitely sloppy on this format. If I knew that the Faithfuls were sorcery speed, I think I would have just killed both there. And by killing them there, we know that we can now attack through the Mutilator and never worry about it. Okay, well, now that I know their sorcery speed, well, I mean, now they're also tapped out, so like extra I can do this. But I can just kill the other Faithful. And now it doesn't matter if they chump with Mutilator. This game was so winnable here. Those multiple punts in a row, we could have been in a really, really solid board state here if I realized those things. But this is currently still a winnable board. We just have to draw better than our opponent. But it didn't have to be this way. We could have been considerably ahead here, I think. I cannot attack with anything with less than 3 power. Cool. Five 4 trample's big. 5 4 trample is big here. Not a good draw. Draw stone cold, nothing. Is their last card in hand also top decked enchantment removal? Wow. That's really frustrating. This was a sloppy game. But what a last couple draws, too. Yeah. Withering Torment. Such an irritating card in draft. I'm such a Magic boomer because I started back like 2009. I know there's a lot of players that played a longer than me, but it's really, really frustrating whenever your opponent blows up your enchantment with a black spell. Alright, that's too many lands in a row to have any shot. Man, every possible thing went wrong that game. We misplayed multiple times, they top decked really well, and we flooded out. Rough, rough ending there. That one was almost definitely winnable. But I forgot what the cards do. We're 4-2, heading into game 7. All right, here we are now for game number 7. A really excellent hand here. Fear of Surveillance, flashing an Entity Tracker in the next end step, and see how many cards we can draw out of it before it dies. If we hit a 4th land, we can almost definitely draw 2 cards off of it with Tunnel Surveyor plus Unable to Scream. Never mind. Thoughtseize, my favorite card of all time. Super fun play pattern. Goodbye, Entity Tracker. We'll drop a Tunnel Surveyor, pop for 2, and get a Surveil here. Unnerving Grasp is the draw. And I'm going to keep that on top. It's a very nice spell. It's a good thing this deck is so good, because I feel still very confident in my position, even with our opponent getting to just completely get rid of our best card in the whole deck with that Thoughtseize. We're still way ahead on board right now, pushing for a lot of damage here. I mean, they know exactly what our hand is as well, so they can play the absolute best their hand can possibly play around this. And it's still not looking great for them. I mean, I'm top decking really well too. So our opponent's on the other frustrating side of Thoughtseize, which is when your opponent, you Thoughtseize your opponent, you see their entire hand, and then they just start playing stuff that you couldn't play around because they literally top decked it every turn. Yeah, they just scooped there. All right. Hand was really good. hand was really, really good. That even ripping out the best card in the hand, it just steamrolls. So we are 5-2 now, heading into game 8. All right, here we are on the play for game number 8. Solid hand here. No enchantments to go with Optimistic Scavenger is disappointing, but still some really nice cards here. We have both our colors. We've got a okay curve out. It's a good curve out if they have a 2-drop to play. Please play a 2-mana creature. No! Yeah, it's pretty disappointing if they just do that. Just play a 2/1 Vigilance here. Uh-oh. We have drawn exclusively lands so far. Might be better than what our opponent's drawing, though. We see 2 planes from them, no second color yet, and they don't play their 3rd land per turn. So, nobody's super happy right now, but I think I'm happier than our opponent. There they go. Find the second color there. Rewarded for the potentially risky keep. Okay. Let's just jam 5 damage here. I doubt they want to redraw a hand that feeds. It's just a full-on removal spell that surveils one. I'll draw Fear of Surveillance so I can double spell with multiple creatures next turn. Get a very wide board that should be hard to block. Acrobatic Cheerleaders to play. Okay, so they have the 1-mana +2/+2. Yeah, that's fine. You can trade 1 for 1 into a 2/2. Trade Jump Scare into a 2/2. Oh, if they don't have that, then things are really bad for our opponent. So they have like a 4-mana board wipe. I don't think there really is a 4-mana board wipe in this set, but I've completely forgotten what other cards do, as we saw in our second loss there, so maybe there is. There's like a 5-mana Waltz of Rage that requires you to have a creature on board to cast it. There's a very expensive X-mana board wipe, the Roller Crusher Ride, but that's a one-sided board wipe, so it's absolutely insane. There's the Restricted Office that blows up all the big creatures, everything with 3 power or more. I can't think of one that would blow up this whole board out of white-red. There might actually be a 2 damage to every creature. Oh yeah, there is Pyroclasm. Okay, they could have had 2 damage to every creature. But they did not, so we find the victory there off of another just quick, aggressive curve out, making a super wide board of creatures, and that is 6-2 now. Heading into the final battle, this is our final game of Magic for today, whether we win or lose, and no matter what, because of our record, we are up in the money today. All right, here we are for game 1. This is not the kind of hand our deck wants. We want to be aggressive here. I'm tempted to keep it because it is a very good defensive hand. I would say that this hand is really good against Boros or other blue-white decks and very bad against any of the green decks. This feels too risky because it doesn't play to our best game plan this deck has. But, I don't know, I mulliganed him a similar hand earlier. I'm going to try this one out and see. We'll see if we can play the controlling role and still have success with the deck, or if we just get outclassed by later game bombs. Oh! Boros. They start with Clockwork Percussionist. This may be the matchup for this hand. Stop all their Percussionist damage and don't worry about them drawing any cards off of it when it dies. Okay, it's Gruul. Gruul is also still pretty aggressive. Yeah, there's a Wickerfolk now. Okay, the hand is still reasonable against Gruul. Definitely feel the pressure of being on the play. Or sorry, feel the pressure of being on the draw here with them playing 2 haste creatures in a row. Razor Trap Gorge. They're splashing black as well. Grab the prize, discard a card, draw 2, start filling that grave for the Delirium. The Wicker Folk becomes a 4/3 trample once they have it, so you're quite obviously going to trap that in the screen, even if it means losing out on a Scavenger +1/+1 counter. Ew, 4 blue and just 1 white source. So next turn, if I don't draw another white source, I can't go Scavenger plus trapped in the screen still. Just because I'm so deep onto the blue mana right now. Hoping they just spend another turn on fixing or something, and we get to Glimmer Burst. 4/2 reach. It's not really another turn on fixing. Now I really want to Plains. 5th Island is really not what the doctor ordered. A little too big for me. Just deal with it. Skinripper's pretty good against our unable to scream because they can sack the Percussionist to get a ping now. Entity Tracker is kind of sick. The Skin Ripper is incredibly threatening. It has Menace, it shoots me whenever they sack a card, and it gets bigger off of its own sack effect. Yeah, this is tremendously threatening. So if they try to shoot the Scavenger for 1, I Glimmer Burst and make it a 2/2 and counteract that, and that soaks up the damage that would have been dealt to my face. The only issue with doing that is I don't get to play Entity Tracker right now, but it's worth it. I mean, the 2 cards off Glimmer Burst plus the draw for turn should make it decently likely for me to hit another enchantment to play next turn. So we force them to use a full-on removal spell, and we just completely counter their ping this turn. Feels good. Flood Pit's Drowner was a pretty good draw. Again, awkward, it's not enchantment. Yikes. Alright, Entity Tracker's doing nothing, but Flood Pit's Drowner is a great draw. Flashed in Appendage Mount. Alright, that's annoying. That'll trade with Optimistic Scavenger, but it's not like I have any enchantments in hand anyway. So honestly, with myself at 9, it's an acceptable trade. Might even be a profitable trade. With life totals the way they are. Okay, they keep looking at our trapped in the screen, so... How's the 3rd time today I'm getting naturalized by black? It is hard to explain just how irritating that is as a fan of the old school Magic color pie. It's tremendously frustrating. Skin Ripper's a little harder to block. And we gotta take the 4 here either way. And hope to draw an enchantment and not flood out. We've already drawn like 8 lands, so... dang it. Why do I open my mouth? We are dead to a million spells here. Any removal spell. Can't make up the comedic timing, you really can't. Well, that was a super unlucky game. We drew like twice as many lands as our opponent. Not quite. They definitely had another land in hand because they had 0 mana up and Arena was waiting for them, so they were just sandbagging the 6th land. But, well, still, we drew like 9 lands there. And the black removal spell against the enchantment was rough. The draws were really awkward, hitting the entity tracker and then no more enchantments in the top 4 afterward. Yeah. Awkward stuff there. Looks like the controlling hand does not work out for us in the end. I think the only particularly different thing we could have done was in the gameplay today. I think we drafted pretty much the best deck we could draft in this seat in the draft pod. I'm very, very happy with the deck that we've drafted. It was a great way to show off that blue-white enchantments tempo aggro deck, and it played pretty well to boot. So it's a great look at what you want to do if you want to play this kind of blue-white deck. Ideally, though, you'll read the cards your opponent plays, you'll remember the format a little bit better, and you'll blow up the Valgavoth faithfuls so that they can't do the stuff that they did to me in our second loss. But first loss and third loss was just really unlucky. The first loss, I think we played pretty well, got relatively ahead, and then they just flipped the game on its head with just the one of Valgavoth's onslaughts. Card wins games single-handedly. Card counteracts everything you've done before it. That's going to happen. And the third loss, we flooded out against some really good aggressive draws from our opponent. That's also just going to happen. It's really that second loss where we had opportunities to make better plays, probably win that game, in which case this would be a 7-2 run. So a trophy run were it not for user error, and 6-3 still a very good, very respectable record here. Great stuff from the blue-white enchantments deck in Duskmourn. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in a recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.